Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Today we are looking at cards that overperform. The majority of these cards are fairly budget and they're just getting thrown to the wayside by a more common staple, but they all fit in a solid niche and they all do something very strong whenever they get put in a deck, and whenever I cast them they always surprise me. So without further ado, let's get into those sponsors and then we can get into the video. So super excited to announce I'm now partnering with Baron of Dice to bring your TCG accessories to the next level. These deck boxes are put simply just eye-catching. I'm obsessed with the leather exterior on these. It just makes the art look super unique, and that's what you're looking for whenever you're trying to show off your deck. The playmats are also super high quality. They have a non-slip backing along with hand-stitched edges featuring that eye-popping art drawn by legendary artists in the space like Ron Spencer. They're also giving me a 5% discount code for all of you guys in the audience. Again, thank you Baron of Dice for sponsoring this channel. You guys can also click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15, and as always, you can get 10% off all of your Tolarian Library proxies whenever you use code DT for D, or again, click on that description down below. Now let's get into the first card. It's Ainok Strike Leader. This is kind of a new card, but it's quickly becoming one of my favorites to throw in my go wide strategies. It's a 2 CMC creature dog warrior that says whenever you attack with a creature or your commander, for each opponent create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking that player. Sacrifice this creature. Creature tokens you control gain indestructible until end of turn. This is a very solid creature. Not only does it generate you a board state similar to Adeline, but it also protects your tokens, which can be very impactful, because one thing that go wide strategies always get blown out by is a poorly timed board wipe and then you have no board state. This guy can protect you for that, so he's just super solid all around. The next card I want to showcase is popular in CEDH but doesn't see a lot of play in casual, and I'm here to tell you it's broken in both. This is Archivist of Oghma, a 2 CMC creature halfling cleric that has flash, and whenever an opponent searches their library, you get to gain 1 life and draw a card. Now, a lot of people says this will depend on the meta you're in. Admittedly, it's not as good in budget, but a lot of players love playing green, and one thing green players do consistently is tutor up those lands or search up those libraries for lands and put them into play. Especially if you have a play group that plays a lot of fetch lands, this is going to trigger every fetch land. Doom Whisperer, this is the closest thing we have to Griselbrand, and it is exactly that. Now the caveat to this card is maybe people don't like to play it because of the time it takes to resolve, because people are going to look for the exact card they need with this guy. This is a 5 CMC creature nightmare demon. It has flying, trample, and then you can pay 2 life to surveil. Surveil means you get a look at the top 2 cards of your library, and then you can either leave them on top of your library or put them into the graveyard. So what you do is wait till you have a card draw trigger on the stack, and you just surveil whatever you don't need to your graveyard, and then you grab the card you need and put it into your hand. Now it kind of reads like Griselbrand in the right deck, where you're able to turn your graveyard into your hand, which is becoming easier and easier with cards like 6 that they've been releasing. This card's won me games, and it has felt unfair every time it's won me that game, but for some reason it's still budget at $1.42. Again, maybe people don't like resolving the I pay 2 life surveil, I pay 2 life surveil, but again, this card is just absolutely insane. Dreamtide Whale. Now this one's a little bit more niche, but honestly it's just insane. This is a 7/5 with Vanishing 2, meaning after you remove the 2 time counters on it, you have to go ahead and bury this creature. Now the thing is, every time a player casts their second spell each turn, you get to proliferate. So the odds of it actually ever leaving the battlefield are very slim, unless your opponents decide to ruin their tempo and only cast 1 card. Now arguably in a playgroup that only casts 1 card, like a 6-drop every single turn, maybe not the best card, right? But in the majority of games I'm playing, everybody's trying to cast as many spells as possible, that way they can out advantage their opponents, and this guy just never dies and you're proliferating a ton while it's happening. So if your deck cares about proliferation, give this guy a try. He's also just a 7/5 in blue, so if you guys care about having powerful creatures or you're trying to station up quickly, this is a perfect card for you. The green Ojer. I think this is the most playable Ojer, maybe the white one for tripling tokens, that one's insane, but this one I think is absolutely cracked and it doesn't see a lot of play. This is a 5 CMC legendary creature god that has trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to reveal that many cards from the top of your library and put a creature card and or land card from among it onto the battlefield, put the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. So you just get a straight up tutor creature card from the top 6 cards of your library, and that's assuming we haven't buffed this guy. And also, can we just talk about this guy being on its own a 6/5 with trample that's 5 mana? That's also just super notable. He also says whenever he dies, return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, and it's going to turn into a land that adds 1 green mana, and then you can pay 3 to transform Temple of Cultivation, activate only if you control 10 or more permanents and only as a sorcery. 9 times out of 10 guys in a green deck, especially a green deck that's grabbing creatures and putting them directly into play, you're going to have over 10 permanents. So this one is very easy to meet. He's very hard to remove, and then once you remove him, he's just going to turn into a land, and then he can come back very easily. This card is unstoppable, and it's kind of inevitable. In a board wipe heavy meta, this is going to be a good card to include because your opponents are going to board wipe everybody's board. You're going to have this guy, as long as you got 10 lands, you're good to go, and then you can easily rebuild faster than your opponent. So for your super casual tables that are still in that board wipe meta, this guy's going to overperform, and honestly, just in any meta that's trying to get creatures onto the battlefield, this guy's also going to overperform. Aven Interrupter. This is a counter spell in mono white that's also a creature. This is a 3 CMC creature bird rogue that has flying and flash, meaning you can cast it at instant speed, and it says when Aven Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted, and then it says spells your opponent cast from graveyard or from exile cost 2 more to cast. So not only is this a little bit of a taxing effect for all of those strategies that are trying to kind of cast things from the graveyard, which there's a lot of, I am that player, and those strategies that are trying to cast spells from exile, I'm also that player. It's also just a solid counter spell, right? It does plot it, meaning they can cast it for 2 CMC next turn, but the important part about plotting is you cannot recast it that turn. So it's not, I'm going to counter that spell and then now you have to pay an additional 2 mana. No, it locks them out from that spell for an entire rotation, which can be the difference between you winning and losing a game. Again, mono white counter magic, and it's on an ETB, meaning we can blink this guy and become super oppressive. That's getting into the niche scenarios, but on its own, this card has really performed for me, and I think people don't like playing it because it's 3 CMC. I'm not leaving 3 CMC open for that creature, but 9 times out of 10, remember, you're gonna know when a player is going to make a push for the win. Especially in your casual metas, a lot of these wins are telegraphed, like, oh, next turn I got it, you know. They don't say that, but you look at their board state, you know they've got a card, they start sweating a little bit, and you're like, okay, I need to leave open some counter magic. Tyvar Jubilant Brawler. This is a 3 CMC legendary planeswalker. It is in black and green, and it says you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures have haste. So now all of your mana dorks can tap immediately, and all of your tap abilities can tap immediately. Very powerful. His +1 allows you to untap a creature, which is very notable for those mana dorks. And then his -2 is mill 3 cards, then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. What I like about this guy is he's very flexible, especially in the graveyard strategies, because 9 times out of 10, those mana dorks get stuck in your graveyard. Now you're able to mill a couple cards, bring those mana dorks back, and now you can tap them immediately for mana. This is also just very good whenever you have very impactful cards at the 2 CMC slot, because now you have a card that's a little bit of a recursion while also giving you a solid ability that allows you to tap those mana dorks right away, effectively turning all of your mana dorks into a signet. But some of your mana dorks are a little bit more broken than your regular signets, like your Savalas that tap for equal to power. This card's won me games, just being able to not pass the turn with a super impactful tap ability. Skyhunter Strike Force. Now this one's very cheap, and for what it does, I think it's very impactful. This guy has flying, he has melee, which means whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1 until end of turn for each opponent you attack this combat. So ideally, it's +3 every single combat whenever we're attacking every opponent. And then its last one is Lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, other creatures you control have melee. So now all of your your creatures get +3 whenever they attack. Again, as long as you're attacking every single opponent. This is like a mini Craterhoof Behemoth for 3 mana. This guy quite simply just pressures opponents' life totals. Another thing it does is if you play a strategy that you don't want to attack into your opponents a lot just because you're playing a lot of 1/1s and you don't want to attack into your opponents until you have enough to go for that massive pump effect and then kill everybody, this is a solid way to get chip damage in because now those 1/1s are 4/4s and they're a little bit harder to block, right? So this is going to be amazing in those go wide strategies that just generate a lot of very small creatures. Try it out, I promise it does a lot, and it's always a very impactful card whenever it hits the battlefield, as long as your commander does want to be on the battlefield fairly early. Relic of Sauron. Has everybody forgotten about this card? I love this mana rock in all of my Grixis decks. This is a 4 CMC artifact that adds 2 mana of any combinations of blue, black, or red to your mana pool, and then it has a tap ability to pay 3 to draw 2 cards and then discard a card. This is quite simply one of my all-stars in my reanimation decks. Not only do you get card advantage, you also get the ability to discard the creature you're trying to reanimate, and if you're not trying to do that, it's just a solid mana rock that taps for 2 colored mana and only costs 4 mana. Again, I'm in love with this card. I put it in all of my Grixis decks, especially the ones that care about reanimating creatures. Again, I think people might have just forgotten about this card. It used to be a lot more expensive. Now it's only $5. Check it out. With that being said, guys, that has been the overperformers today. Leave in the comments down below the cards you have had overperform. And don't mess with me, guys. If I see you guys saying the Great Henge overperforms or Craterhoof Behemoth, you're getting the pin of shame.